Welcome to Bunnyfish Crafts. I'm your host Heather, known as Bunnyfish on Ravelry, Instagram, and YouTube. Today is Monday, the 11th of April, 2016, and this is episode 174, Spring Break 2016. Grab some sticks and string and come sit with me. So it is my podcast, the boy child's spring break this week. They're both home right now. 3 seconds ago, basically, I started a bath for this one and she's decided she's already finished. But he is in the bath, so he'll be in there for an hour. At least there's only one child that we have to worry about interruptions from. Yes.
Where's Gabriel?
In the bath. Go. Go. Anyway. So anything that I was going to say to you, I totally just forgot because highly distracted by a small human. The prize did not go out for last week's drawing. That is going to happen sometime this week. I plan on running a lot of errands this week so that we can be out of the house. Today, it did not happen. But the rest of at least the next 2 days, I want to be out of the house pretty frequently. I was going to run some errands today, and then I took a nap instead. And it's rainy outside, so I don't really like running errands in the rain with the kids because the kids don't walk as quickly as I do, and then I get wet. And I don't have a problem being wet, but I really, really despise when the bottom of my jeans get wet or anything and they touch my ankles and then my socks get wet. That whole chain of events just makes me really crabby. So we just skipped errands today. Anyway, I have an idea for next month's or the next knit along. I talked about it several podcasts ago. We are going to do the small things knit along again because it was super popular last time, and that will be starting on May 1st and run through the end of June, and it'll be the same sort of thing. It'll be a chatter and finished objects thread combined, so you can comment on things as you go. Any small thing that you finish that is a standalone thing, kind of a standalone thing, counts. So every mitered square on a blanket counts, every hex puff counts, a single sock counts, a finished blanket counts, anything counts. Hopefully that'll go over really well. Again, I haven't pulled the prizes, but I will shortly. I have a question, which feel free to respond in the group, or I guess I can open up the chatter thread for the knit along, since I'll just be pulling the actual projects and putting them on paper starting at the beginning of May. If I were to offer up gently used prizes, would that be a problem? Because here's the thing. I like new shiny things. And then they're not new and shiny anymore. And they're still good, but I just don't use them. Specifically, stitch markers. I have a lot of stitch markers that I don't use. And it's going to be the same way it was last year for this, where you could pick your prize. So it's not like you would be stuck with used stitch markers. But if I were to offer that sort of thing, would you be offended, I guess is the question. Because maybe you don't have stitch markers and I have an abundance, and then you could have some stitch markers. I don't know. Think it over. We'll talk about it in the chatter thread. I'll try to remember to open that. What else? I think that's all the knit along stuffy stuff. So, finished objects. I have 3 this week. You can probably guess what they are if you really think about it. Anyway, I'm so excited and I'm going to show you what they are. The first one is raptor socks, which you can only kind of see the awesomeness that they are, but I will insert a picture. Oh, I had a moment last week in phase 3 or section 3, whatever it is, of the pattern where you take out stitch markers. It tells you specifically in the pattern for the setup row, shift these stitches around and then take out all but 2 stitch markers. I left stitch markers in, so I was doing decreases at the wrong place. So I had to frog back 6 rows, which is not the same as frogging 6 rounds on a sock, because these rows are each about 200 stitches, less than 200 stitches, but more than 100. I don't know. I did the math once upon a time and told you about it, right? So I had to rip back 6 rows, and then I redid those 6 rows and the rest of the section in 2 days, and then I did the final section the next day, and then the final this short row section, and then the Kitchener the following day. So these socks have been finished, ends woven in and everything, for a few days now, just sitting on the blockers drying. Probably took a day and a half for them to dry because it has been super rainy here. But here they are, and they're finished, and I am excited to put them on and wear them tonight. I've been waiting for days. I love them so much. The yarn is White Birch Fiber Arts in the I Eats Me Spinach colorway. It's really, really beautiful. It is a self-striping colorway, which I think you'll be able to see better when I put this into a blanket square this coming week. What else? I used the Addie needles that were sent to me. The size 1.5 US, no, the size 1 US, but 2.5 millimeter needles, and I really, really liked them. The join was really smooth, the knitting was really smooth, the needle was nice. Yeah, I really enjoyed knitting with those needles, and I really enjoyed these socks. So that was fantastic. I finished Mara's tube socks, so they were this long last week, and I finished them last night. I stayed up, not late for me. I mean, I stayed up until about 1 in the morning watching a few episodes of Vikings after everyone else had gone to sleep, which is not late for me because I work until midnight 5 days a week, so 1 a.m. is a normal bedtime. So that is kind of what they look like. The yarn is Leading Men Fiber Arts Showstopper in the Royalty colorway. It was leftovers that I had from knitting the Galaxy mittens, and Mara picked out the yarn for her Christmas socks. She's very excited about them. I didn't weave in the ends because I didn't have a needle handy. I was knitting downstairs and my needles sit up here where they won't get lost. But yeah, they will be sufficiently long on her. I think when I tried them on down here-ish, they were halfway up her calves. So if they're not knee-highs, they'll be pretty close on her. And when I tried them on her, they fit her really well. So I'm excited to weave in the ends and put these away until Christmas. Yay, another Christmas present finished. And I also finished, so excited that this is off of my work rotation, this lovely Afghan lap blanket, whatever you want to call it, for Steve's mom. And it is really nice, and the yarn is Karen Simply Soft, which is a decent acrylic yarn. It is soft and not too terrible to work with. This is something like 6 skeins of yarn in this, which is kind of a lot of yarn. I don't love making large blankets that are all of a piece. So it was a little bit of a trial. I put it on in the middle of December, somehow thinking I could make it in 2 weeks, which I theoretically could have if it was the only thing that I worked on and I was really driven and I was in a lot of social situations. I could have finished it in 2 weeks. Because in social situations, I don't mind having really boring projects to work on because there are other things around to keep me entertained. In day-to-day life, I don't want to have boring projects because then I'm bored. And this was kind of a boring project. It started out with 30 rounds of single crochet in the center square, and then 20 rounds of half double crochet, and then 10 or so rounds of double crochet around that, and then I started the border. And the border stripes on the sides are not the same. They're the same color sequence, but not the same pattern. So on the side that I wanted to be where I needed to add length to it, I did half double crochets and double crochets for the colors, and then on the sides where I wanted to add less length, I just did single crochets. It turned out to be right around 50 by 60. I haven't measured it since I washed it, but I really don't want to put it on my floor so it'll get all cat furry again. So it is sufficient Lapgan sized, and now that I've shown it to you, I'm going to immediately go put it out in my car so that children and animals can't mess it all up, because I don't want to wash it again. I really despise washing things that were supposed to be clean and should have maintained their clean status and then somehow didn't. Anyway, works in progress. I have a bunch of them. Let's start with the Josie socks. Last week I was here, so I finished the repeat, did the heels, and started the next repeat. So I am 9 rounds into that, 10 rounds, something like that. I think actually I just finished round 11 and I'll be doing round 12. This is what they're looking like. This yarn is Science Monkey Mercantile in the Faraday sock in the Rosalind Franklin's overexposed photograph color. And that is kind of what the pattern looks like. Once it's on a foot, it will be more visible, as sock patterns generally are. I'm knitting it on US 1 2.25 millimeter needles, as I'm knitting every pair of socks except the Raptors, so I'll probably forget to say that for any other sock. But I did work on those. I did my daily 2 rounds, except 2 days I did heels. And something else. I don't remember what I want to say. I remember what I want to say about that. So I had a moment. This is a moment of sadness. While I was working on the heels, I looked over. It was the first heel. I looked over and I was like, is my needle breaking? And it did. One of my my only size 1 Chow needle broke. The end came right off. It was right at the join, and as you can see, my needle automatically makes a very strict bend right there, and it's because of how I hold the needle. It tends to get pushed like that under my pinky as I'm sliding things. So it's not the needle's fault, it's my fault because I'm hard on my tools. All of my needles have that bend in them right there because of how big my hands are and how I hold them. So that was kind of sad, because I do really like the Chow-Goo needles a lot. For Magic Loop, for anything, the cable is a little firm and some people don't like that for Magic Loop, but it doesn't bother me. But yeah, my needle broke and that was kind of sad. I also worked on, what else was I working on last week? I want to show you all the things I was working on last week before I show you new things. So I worked on the Care Bear cross stitch and I started the heart. So that's about halfway to being finished. I just have to work my way back this way, crossing the X's, and the face is fully finished. I decided to just do back stitch for the mouth. I think it turned out cute. I didn't even do the muzzle as pictured in the pattern. You're supposed to go all the way across with that muzzle line, but I thought it was really cute. It's just the smile. I don't think I had that done last week, but maybe. I'm almost done with this balloon. I just have to finish the X's, obviously, and then there's a little bit more of the string, which I may or may not finish depending on if I remember to or not. It's like 20 back stitches or something that I'm missing. I don't know if I'll remember to do that or not. And let's see what else. I have finished all of the shading on the body of the bear, so now I just have the main color to fill in, and I did more of the white on the cloud. So progress is going, and I'm excited for when this is finished, but it'll be a little sad because then it'll be finished. It's okay though, I have another cross stitch waiting in the wings for when this one is completed. And I don't even have a purpose for this one. It's just going to go in a bin and wait until I have a reason for it. What is my hair doing? This is the problem with having clean hair. So this may or may not gross you out, but whatever. I'll take the chance. I only wash my hair once a week, maybe twice a week in the summer if I'm really active and it gets really gross, but usually the sweat kind of reverses and makes it cleaner. So once a week, maybe once every 10 days, depending on how dirty my hair is, because it doesn't get dirty very quickly. You can't tell by looking at it that it's dirty. And if I wash my hair too frequently, like every other day, then my scalp gets really dry and irritated. So I hate when I wash my hair because then my hair just doesn't know what to do with itself. It's not dirty enough to behave. I have really, really decently behaved hair normally, but not on the first day of clean. Anyway, the other thing that I was working on last week was the Painted Tiger fiber. So I continued spinning the single, and it is much more purple than it was last week. I am completely finished with pink, and I am now in purple. And I also did some plying. I finished that first ball that I had, the first ply ball, and I have made my way through all of the yellow on the second ply ball. See, I'm turning into this purpley gray color, and eventually the pink. I think what I'm going to do for the next few days is forego plying and just spin on the spindle for 10 minutes instead of doing 5 of each, so that I can get my next ply ball ready, and that way when the singles are resting on the spindle, I can just take a day or two to just ply. I feel like if I continue spinning and plying at the same time, I'm going to run out, and then I'm going to have a day where it's resting and I can't do anything. So that's my plan for right now, but I'm really excited to have made so much progress on that spin. Crazy, if you work on things every day, they make progress. Who knew? I have some new things. I'll show you the least impressive first. This kind of counts, right? So my next pair of socks for myself is going to be out of 716 knit, 716 sock in the Hell Hath No Fury Like a Woman Scorned for Sega. It is a lovely natural colored yarn with speckles. They're pink and purple and just little pieces of happiness in the yarn. And the pattern I'm going to be making is steampunkery. So I have just the cast on of just the first sock. I'm going to do them 2 at a time. So I'm going to cast on, I'm going to do the second cast on after I finish recording. And that will be my work on the sock for today, because I don't usually do any work after I do the cast on. But yes, I will do the cast on, and that will be the beginning of my steampunkery socks. How cool is that? It is still April, and I've started on my second quarter socks. I have an idea. Totally, I want to make another pair of socks for myself this year. I know that would be totally crazy and unprecedented, 5 pairs of socks in 1 year. But I was knitting away on Mara's socks, and I have quite a bit left of the purple. And I still have a decent chunk left from the 2 colors that I used in Gabriel's socks. And I was like, wouldn't it be cool if I had kind of matching socks to my kids? Yes, it would be. So I think that I'm going to make some Rose City rollers for myself at some point, using the leftover scrappy bits from their socks. That would be so fun, especially because all of the socks that I'm making for myself this year, the yarns that I'm using are precious yarns. So I want to make decent length socks out of them. I don't want to make short socks, but I do frequently wear short socks in the summertime. So it would be good to have a pair of short socks, and then I could be matchy with my kids, although I won't wear them this year because those would be my Christmas socks. I don't usually make myself Christmas socks, but those would be them. those would be the ones so that we could have matchy Christmas socks. That's happening. I'm super excited about it. And I told you it was raining outside, and it has been on and off, so the lighting is kind of terrible now. If it gets really, really awful, I might try turning on a light, but that doesn't usually really help. I also started some tube socks for on-the-go knitting, and I actually started these before last podcast, but then I didn't talk about them because I just cast on the toe as a test knit for Melissa Transtrom. Yes. She's a Nancy on Ravelry, and she has the why can't I remember Meltrans Designs podcast, which I watch every time it comes out, so I don't know why that was so difficult to remember, although I would probably be hard-pressed to name all of the podcasts that I watch on a regular basis, so that would be why. Anyway, she designed I can't even remember what it's called. It's a toe that slants at different rates on either side, so it's more directional and more anatomically correct. And she asked me if I could test it for her, and I did. So both toes are actually the same thing. Like, this is a short side, this is a long side, this is a short side, this is a long side, but it doesn't matter because these are tube socks. So I don't have to worry about remembering to put the heel of one on one side and on the other side of the other. This yarn is a leftover bit that I got, I don't know, from a friend or at the ZK or something. And these tube socks that I'm making are for Steve's sister who has really small feet. She can shop in the children's section, but I don't want to make her socks that are too short. I don't know what size shoe she wears, so I'm making tube socks. And I only have a 50-gram ball of this yarn, which is going to be the main body color. Yeah, these colors are not showing up properly. Maybe I'll put in a picture, but more likely just come back next week to see appropriate colors on things. I only have 50 grams of this, so I'm going to do contrasting toes and cuffs. And I started, it's just barely into 2 rounds of the body color on that toe, but I did start them so that I can have something to do, especially when walking around and running errands. I need to have something that's pretty mindless when taking the kids places because I'm tentatively planning a zoo trip. Tentatively. We will see. Depends on the weather. It's supposed to be rainy today and tomorrow, but then on Wednesday it's supposed to be sunny, but not too hot. So that's what I'm thinking. And that would be perfect for the zoo because even if I make it through, I think I'm going to do 50 rounds of plain stockinette instead of the 40 that I've been doing for the kid socks. Even if I manage to do all of that at the zoo, the pattern is still ridiculously easy and I can just work on it there. The other 2 projects I started, I've actually made pretty decent progress on. I started crocheting a market bag for Steve's aunt because I had one it was my white elephant gift at the family Christmas party, and I had made it forever ago and then never used it, and it sat around not being used, so I was like, yeah, sure, why not? Let's get rid of this. And it got passed around several times at the white elephant. It was a dark blue, I'll put in a picture. I haven't made a market bag since I made that one, just because I have a lot of reusable bags from the stores, and people frequently give me their reusable bags because they don't want to use them. I don't know why you wouldn't. It makes shopping so much easier and faster. Like, the carrying in of groceries is so much faster with reusable bags because I only need like 6 reusable bags for almost $200 worth of groceries, and I can carry in all of those bags all by myself instead of like the 30 plastic grocery bags I would need. I don't know. And as someone who has to fill those grocery bags at work sometimes, I don't even mind them there. I know a lot of the baggers that I work with see reusable bags and they're like, but I like them because it means it's just less work opening bags and trying to fight with bags and whatever. Anyway, so I'm making a market bag and I only had I had a cone of cotton just that's been sitting around for like 3 years or something. I don't remember why I bought it. I mean, I vaguely had an idea of doing dishcloths and like bath face cloths and stuff, but then I never did because I don't enjoy those types of projects in general. I made them once for a bridal shower party, and that was fun, but that's not what I enjoy doing. So I've had this cone sitting around for forever, and I don't even know if I have enough left on the cone to finish the bag, so I might be buying a new cone to finish this bag, but it's okay because I'm going to be making the second market bag, so it won't be terrible. Anyway, I don't know what this color is. It's on my Ravelry somewhere, but it's a cone of dishcloth type cotton, and here is the beginning of the market bag. I have the base. The market bag that I made was huge, and that's what they liked about it. So here's the base, and I have the base setup rows. So what it is 25 stitches across by 50 rows, and then pick up all the stitches around the outside, and do 5 rounds total of single crochet, and then I'm going to do 2 rounds of double crochet, and then go into probably treble crochet chain one for a while. Maybe we'll see how that goes to make it very open, but I wanted the base to be fairly solid just so when you're out shopping, the little things that fall to the bottom don't get lost falling out the sides, you know? Hi.
Do you actually show that?
Not yet.
Okay.
Still working on it. You want to show that?
Yeah.
Okay, before I show my last project, Gabriel's going to hop in with his current work in progress, which is some spinning. Come here. So what did you do yesterday?
Well, I was trying to finish this, and then he actually finished it today.
Yeah, he says that the bobbin is finished. So this is his spinning. It's a little bit thick and thin, which is very cool. And he did it all by himself. He did the drafting by himself. He put the fibers together every time he needed a new strip all by himself. And it was a little bit frustrating, but you kept going, right?
Yes.
Yes. So very cool, and I will probably wind this bit off of the bobbin so that he can start spinning again this week. Sound like a good plan?
Yes.
Okay. I'm going to continue recording. Go. The last thing that I started, I don't know, I think pretty much immediately after I finished recording the podcast, is a stripy sock. The pattern is Mystic Spiral by Josh Ricks, and this is where I am. So here's the toe, the first diagonal section, the foot, the heel. I used Fish Lips Kiss heel, which is not the heel in the pattern. It's totally different, but Fish Lips Kiss heel. And then I did I'm in the middle of the second diagonal part. I did the base triangle, the bias knitting, and now I am back to building up the side triangle. So the first sock is almost finished. And this yarn is super exciting. I love this colorway. It is not a very me colorway, which is fine. It's not going to be a for me sock, but the colors are just really, really exciting. I don't usually have I just need to knit one more stripe feeling, but I kind of, for a little while with this sock, had that. And now I'm just like, whatever, just keep knitting. So this yarn is Stray Cat Socks, which is from New Zealand, and that is what it looks like. And it comes in this little box, and it comes in a ball. And the very outside of the ball is kind of like how Lollipop has the ball wound, so you see the big chunks of stripes. And then as you get to the middle, it is not like that, which makes sense because it's a lot of work to do it like that, and it's so much easier to just wind it quickly without worrying about stripes looking pretty. But I've been really enjoying this knit. I'm kind of went off pattern. So I did the toe and the first section, the first diagonal to pattern, and then I kind of read a little bit about how to do the rest of the foot to the heel, and I was like, okay, I got that. And then I went off book for the second diagonal because I know what it's supposed to be. I just didn't look it up before I started. And then I got to the bias section and I was doing the increases and decreases on the opposite sides that they were supposed to be on. So then I had to rip them out. Oh, hubris. But then I finished that last night because I finished Mara's socks and there was still some Vikings on. So of course I had to continue knitting. I have the DVDs from the library, so I just sit down and watch a full DVD, which I think is 3 episodes in one sitting. So that's how I finished those socks and made this much progress last night. I would be finished with this second triangle if I had just paid better attention, but whatever. It is what it is. It's a sock and it's almost finished because all I have is the second triangle and then a few stripes at the top and then the cuff, and then the sock is finished and I can cast on the second one. I'm really enjoying this sock. It's just super bright. Did I tell you that the colorway is called Electric Avenue? And I think that's so fitting. Yeah, I'm really enjoying this sock. I did modular knitting this weekend. I did a fair bit. Oh, one more work in progress. So you remember last week I was talking about how I was so bad at my 4 hours of crafting. That was my New Year's resolution. That's the term. Well, I was really bad at it. But on top of picking up my spinning, which I've been making really good progress on, I also picked up the garland that I had been working on. And I don't know if I've ever shown this on the podcast. I can't remember if I showed it maybe the first week I worked on it. It was a long time ago. It was before we moved to this house. And I read a book that I may or may not have talked about on the podcast. It was knitting patterns based on fashion of certain decades. And one of the patterns was a knitted beaded necklace from like the 1920s, I think is what the fashion era that it was inspired by was. And I was like, oh, that would make a really cool Christmas garland. And I think it will. So here's what I have. It's just a crocheted I-cord. And then these beads take maybe 15 minutes a piece because you cast on a certain number and then you just knit straight for a certain number of rounds, and then you take the yarn and put it through the ends and attach it to here. So these 2 beads I did last night, and they take about 15 minutes. So 4 hours divided by 15 minutes is 16. So if I do 16 beads on this, which is totally doable by the end of the month, then I will be caught up on one of the 4-hour projects that I was supposed to be doing. So you'll probably be seeing more of this in the coming week. And this is, I think this bead right here is at the exact halfway point because I didn't want to start stringing at one end and then have to string all the way down because that just didn't seem practical. That seemed like a waste of time for stringing beads, right? I don't know. Who knows? So I'll probably work out this direction for the rest of the week, and then maybe next week I'll start working out in this direction, and then, be closer to having the beads close to the end. I think that I did about 20 feet of I-cord. So it'll just be a nice little fun thing to hang up, and it's not even particularly Christmassy, so I could just leave it up all year round and have it be a decoration. But especially around Christmas time is when I want to debut it, because they kind of look like crazy Christmas lights, right? I could just make the lights out of like traditional Christmas light colors, but I'd rather use my leftover scrappy bits of yarn for it. I did square number 24 on my blanket, and which one was it? This one right here. So this is the green that I used in last week's barn raising square. Something from the ZK. Don't know where it came from for sure, but it's in the blanket. And it's the first quadrant almost finished. I just have this coming week square, and that'll be 25. And then I can start the next quadrant. I'm super excited about it. I did barn raising square number 67. And what was I doing with this red last week? I was doing something. Oh, the Pikachu cheeks. So this is that same red, and it wants to blow out the camera when it goes close, but this is pretty accurate. Red is just hard to capture. I don't know, it's some big box store's red yarn. I made 8 hexapuffs because I have decided that if I just cast on 7 hexapuffs to do magic loop first thing during the week, and then every time I'm sitting down to craft, I just go ahead and knit across one needle, they'll all get done, right? And it did work that way. And then last night I was like, well, why don't I make a celebratory one just on my double points? Really quick. It'll be quick and easy, get it taken care of, and then I can have 8 instead of just 7. So I did. I have 3 celebratory. So this one is 2 different colorways of 716 knit solo base, striped, and the green stripes are garter stripes, garter ridges. This is some unknown yarn from the ZK, and this is the Lion Brand Sakis in the Red Heart colorway, Red Hot colorway, and even. And the last 2 were just turned inside out. And then I have some random acrylic yarn from Claire. I have, I have a purple in the single, that's the same, not purple, gray, that's in this one, but I just dropped it on the ground and I'm not going to reach. This one is half of the Knit Picks Dandelion, and, well, I guess less than half of 716 My Hormones Don't Rage colorway. This was a scrap of something from the ZK, and then this bottom color is Grinning Gargoyle, I want to say Storm colorway. It's a merino silk blend, and I used it to make that scarfy thing that Josh Ricks designed ever ago. I don't remember what it's called. It'll come to me eventually. It's one of the ones that's 2 words, and the 2 words start with the same letter, and it's slip stitches. And then this is Scrappy Bits, so that green that I used in my mitered square, and then a little bit of Plymouth Yarn Company Happy Feet in whatever colorway I made my Kai Mei socks out of. I don't even know how that's still around because I made those socks like 4 years ago or something. And then just a little gray scrap that is probably also from the ZK. So yay, 8 hexapuffs. Hopefully I can get back on the at least 7 a week. I'm really going to try to do more, but if I can just get 7 a week done, I will count it as a success. And all that I have left is what I've been reading. So I finished Tiny Pretty Things, which was severely messed up, but in a believable way. I could understand how living in a situation that's that competitive, especially being teenage girls. I recall vaguely being a teenager, and I'm around teenagers very frequently at work, and even when I'm around them, I was never like this. I know I was similar to this, but I was never this. was a little bit atypical as a teen, whatever. But I could understand how that level of aggression and just sabotage could go on in such a high stakes competitive field as ballet. It was pretty good. I enjoyed is not the correct word, appreciated it. I didn't dislike reading it, but it's not really the sort of thing that one reads and enjoys, if that makes sense. I don't know how to explain. Anybody who reads knows what I'm saying. Sometimes you read things that you're not like, oh, I loved this book, but you read it and you're like, I'm glad I read that book. That's how that was. Then I started Will Grayson, because Josh picked, and it's written by John Green, who wrote The Fault in Our Stars and other books. An Abundance of Catherines I read and talked about on the podcast. The Fault in Our Stars is by far my favorite book that I've read by him. It's the only one that I've felt compelled to read in less than 24 hours. But he wrote that, and then the co-author of this book is David Levithan, who I don't know if I have read a lot of his things that he's authored by himself, because, and I found this kind of amusing, his name is very close to David Leventhal, who he actually thanks in the dedication, because their names are so similar. So I can't remember if I've read David Levithan's or David Leventhal's books. I don't want to say that David Levithan wrote something and then be incorrect, but I do know that he co-authored Nick and Nora's Infinite Playlist with one of my favorite young adult authors, Rachel Cohn. So if you haven't read that, go read it, because it's kind of amazing. It's super brilliant. It's very musically, like, it's all tangled up in music and stuff, and very, that book reminds me of being a teenager. Where, like, this was not my life when I was a teenager. But I enjoyed it. It was a good story. It was the first 2 chapters. Maybe I finished Tiny Pretty Things last week and started this last week. I don't remember. The first 2 chapters were weird. It starts off weird. The chapters are written from 2 different Will Grayson's points of view. Yes. And they're written very stylistically different, which is fine. But the first 2 chapters, it's just kind of an introduction to the style more than to the story, I feel like. And then you read chapter 3 and 4, and you're like, okay, I'm in the book now. I get this. So if you start reading it and you're like, I don't know about this, at least make it through chapter 4 before deciding to put it down. It was an overall enjoyable read, but it was kind of a light and fluffy read. I mean, there were definite serious issues tackled here. One of the Grayson's friends his best friend is gay, and one of the Graysons is gay. So there's that issue sort of tackled, and dealing with stigmas and self-acceptance and that sort of thing. So that's good. I would recommend reading it. I probably won't be buying it, but it's still really good. And then I started reading yesterday, I think, maybe the day before, Winter, which is the last book in the Lunar Chronicles. And who are you by? Marissa Meyer. I wanted to say one of the other authors that I've been reading, Cassandra Clare or Kira Cass or any of those other authors whose first and last name start with the same sound. Anyway, Marissa Meyer. And here are the other books in the series so far, which I have all read and have enjoyed. I am very much enjoying this one. The main character is Winter, who is based off of Snow White, and it's just really interesting to see how all of the characters through the books all of the new main characters have been integrated into Cinder, the original main character, into her life and how things work. And I very much enjoyed all of the books in this series. I highly recommend it. I don't really want to talk about it because this is the last book in the series, so I don't want to give anything away because everything is so tightly tied together. It's not a series like the there's a series of books called Once Upon a Time that are based on fairy tales, and they're all standalone books, but they're all part of a series. This isn't that. All of these books go chronologically in order, except Fairest. That's like a prequel. It's really good. I highly recommend it. If you like fairy tales, if you like retelling of fairy tales, this one is really good. It deals with classism and racism, and it's just overall very good. Anyway, I'm about to be highly distracted, so I hope you made something fantastic with your sticks and string, and I will see you next week. Bye!